Jean-Claude Van Damme starts in another Kickboxer movie.
No rest. And a chance to be remembered for a lifetime.
Hi guys, welcome back. Kickboxer Vengeance is now on Netflix. I just got a glimpse of it and I decided to watch it. So my major concern was like, is it going to be as good as the first one or not? But let me remind you guys, the first one was not perfect at all. But the thing was that we had Jean-Claude Van Damme at his prime at that time. So he was like the main attraction of that film itself. Now I remember watching the 1989 version with him. And I remember my favorite scene was when he was drunk and he was dancing at that bar with those women, and then out of nowhere the bad guys come to him and confront him, and then it ends up in this like big funny fighting scene aside from like the big fight at the end. And there's a couple other sequels to this movie already, but this is I think the only sequel with Jean-Claude Van Damme back in it. But he's not fighting, he's actually the one training this time. So you have these two brothers, Kurt and Eric, Kurt being the younger brother, and Eric takes this like fight from Thailand. He gets paid for it, so he travels and he's gonna fight this master called Tong Po, who is played by Batista. If you guys remember the first one, the same thing happens in this one, except Tong Po beats the shit out of his brother Eric and he kills him. Now obviously this is where the whole vengeance thing comes in with Kurt. Kurt goes visit Eric's trainer, which is Van Damme himself. And, he's, telling him, like, why didn't you train my brother better? And he's like, dude, like, I trained him. I didn't tell him who to go fight. Or, I didn't tell him to fight at all. No, like, there's one part in the movie where, like, Kurt tries to avenge him by doing the dumbest thing, which is by breaking into his house and trying to kill Tong Po. And then, obviously, he gets caught. Now, the weird thing about this scene was that Tong Po doesn't kill him. He actually freaking calls the cops. Now, I don't think I've seen a movie where the villain in the film calls the cops. Like, what the fuck, man? Like, you should have just beat him. Like, that would have been a cool fighting scene right there. So the guy that plays Kurt in this movie, who's the lead, also his name is Alan Moosey, and I don't think I've ever seen him. And sadly, he doesn't come nowhere close as charming as Jean-Claude Van Damme in the first one. Like, obviously, he was at his prime back then. But, like, his charisma and, like, character is not all there, and then of course with like the choreographing of the fighting scenes, it's not as good either. Not that the first one's amazing, but like like they do have like the extreme training that they had in the first movie. Like they had like one scene where like they had him like go underwater like while riding a bike. That was hilarious. I remember in the first one too, like they had like him submerged underwater while he was training and meditating. And I remember as a kid I tried to do that at a swimming pool. And yeah, don't try that, because that shit's dangerous. Especially since I was little and I didn't know how to like hold my breath for that long. The movie is kind of cheesy at points because the way that they fight, it's kind of obvious. Like they'll throw a punch and the other guy's just like bracing for it. Like, so you're like, oh, okay, it's gonna land on his face or like his chest. And like fighting scenes with Tong Po himself were kind of funny and like just ridiculous. I think like the WWE match would have been like better. Don't get me wrong, I love Batista. But the way that they made him in this movie was hilarious because he had a freaking mop of a haircut. Like, I don't know what that was on his head. I really don't know. And then two, he had like very little dialogue and he was always serious. And the funny thing is like he was serious, but at the same time I couldn't take him serious because of the weird braid he had going on. The final scene, spoiler alert, if you guys haven't seen the first one, you obviously know how this one ends. Tong Po freaking loses, obviously. But it's not that he loses. What bothers me is the way he lost. Like, he obviously goes for vengeance, They do bring back the shattered glass on the gloves thing, but it looks kind of like weird in this movie. I don't know why. Maybe in the original it was more like realistic, the way that they did it. But the way that he goes down in this movie is just so obvious. It was so weird. Like, it wasn't obvious, but it was like, what? Like, really? Is that how they're gonna, like, put him down? Like, that's weird. Like, I think it could have been like more like the fighting scene at the end would have been way better if they had like more gore and like blood like the first one did. Like, it was intense at points, but it just didn't like finish things in like in a satisfactory way. But those are my quick thoughts, guys. Obviously the movie was cheesy. The acting and like the choreography of the fighting scenes was kind of obvious for me. Like, it was kind of like soft punch. Like, if like you throw a punch, but then that punch seems so soft, but at the same time that punch sent someone flying across the room. Like, that was like, I'm like, nah. Like, I watched it with my dad too, so my dad was like, kind of like disappointed in the ending because, you know, he was like, oh wow, that's how they're gonna finish the movie. Like, and I was like, well, it's on Netflix. Like, what do you expect? Those are my thoughts, guys. I mean, the leading role I think could have been a little bit better. I've never seen him in movies. You know, I can see him having like a future in like B movies maybe, but I haven't really seen him. I think he was like a stunt double, but that's about it. So I'm gonna give this movie a 2.5 out of 5, guys. That's what I think. If you guys seen it, just make sure to watch it on Netflix. It's on there already. If you guys watched it, so put some comments down below. Let me know what you guys thought of the movie. Like this video, subscribe to my channel for more, and until next time, stay tuned.
You like coconuts?